funny when I saw it on the news the other day. Speaker, we'll get back to the energy piece in a little bit, but I do want to talk generally, very briefly, about the Ontario economy as we sit here today. We saw, released in the fall economic statement, the Minister of Finance state that economic growth, GDP growth in the province of Ontario for 2010, 3.2%. Leading jurisdiction in North America, as I understand it. I don't think, if I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a national or subnational government in North America that had 3.2% growth last year. Ontario did. We're doing something right. We're doing something right here. We all still know that with the American economy not doing well, that places a significant drag on the Ontario economy, given that the Ontario economy is primarily an exporter jurisdiction or an exporting jurisdiction. And when the American economy is not doing well, that makes it more difficult for us. Having said that, in spite of that, and with a Canadian dollar that's at par, 3.2% GDP growth for 2010 in the province of Ontario. 70 to 75% of the jobs, post-recession jobs, I'm told, are back. All of that, GDP growth of 3.2%, 70 to 75% of those jobs lost in what was the greatest recession since the Great Depression. Nobody seems to argue that. And yet, under those circumstances, 30 to 40 million jobs lost worldwide. In Ontario, 3.2% growth GDP last year, and about 70 to 75% of the jobs have come back. Speaker, when the opposition parties focus their comments exclusively on energy and nothing else, and nobody denies that energy costs have gone up in the province of Ontario, they only talk about the cost side. They don't remind the people in the province of Ontario what we have done to help them on the other side of the equation. What have we done to reduce their costs? I listed very quickly while I was listening to the debate today 5 things, and I know that I don't have an exhaustive list here. I listed 5 things that are significant that we've done. And I think, you know, when you wrap these up, I'll mention them in a second. The stuff that we've done here is part of the reason why you don't see people marching on the front lawn of Queen's Park. I mean, if things were as bad as the official opposition and the third party wants to make it out to be, where are the great en masse marches down on the front lawns of Queen's Park like there used to be under my friend Mr. O'Toole's government? When he was in government, I remember there used to be a lot more people visiting this place on a regular basis. Here's a short list that I came up with.
I would ask them to refer to the riding and not the...
Thank you, Speaker. This is not a Letterman top 10. I only got 5. I'm sure there's 5 more, maybe somebody else when they speak. The Ontario Energy and Property Tax Credit. I think we added $400 or $500 more for seniors. And I think, I'm not sure, the official opposition, I believe, quite certainly voted against it. I'm not sure about the third party. That's giving another $400 to $500 at the maximum level to about 2.4 million people, I believe it is, in the province of Ontario. Almost all seniors as well will receive $400 to $500 more than they were. I think we took it from about $625 to well over $1,000. Voted against by the opposition members. That's one of the reasons seniors aren't phoning my constituency complaining about these things. Northern Energy Credit. Again, I thank Northern Caucus. We worked on that for a long time. Energy credit available only to Northerners. The 10% reduction that we just announced in the fall economic statement, the Ontario Clean Energy Benefit, the transition checks that people in the province of Ontario are getting. And here's one of my favorites that not too many people talk about anymore. The personal income tax reduction. 1% on the first $37,000 of income, everybody eligible. So you make $20,000, that's $200. You make $37,000, that's $370. If you're in a dual income household and you both make $37,000 or more, that's $740 reduction on that 1% reduction. You want to talk about why people aren't marching on the front lawn of Queen's Park, why the unions aren't there upset, why the anti-poverty people aren't there. I haven't even mentioned the Ontario Child Benefit. There's my 6th. The list will grow as I speak, because these people know about these things. They're aware of these programs. Now, I don't expect the opposition to talk about it, but I think it's important that we as Liberals on this side remind people about that. Personal income tax, 1% on the first $37,000 of income, $370. I've talked about this particular one in here before. To use up just that one, I listed 5 others. To use up just that one in relation to the HST, you have to spend, I think, about $4,000 or $5,000 or $5,000 on previously exempt items from the PST before you'll use up just that one tax reduction. Just that one. And that's only one of 6 that I could think of off the top of my head. So this idea that, I always love it when the Conservatives talk about pocketbook issues as well. I wish I had 20 minutes just on that one, because that history from 1995 to 2003 provides a wonderful example of how people who like to say they're taking a care of people's pocketbook, in fact, aren't. Speaker, again on the energy, we all have a record on this. We know when the Conservatives were in government, they created the debt retirement charge. 1999 is when it came in. 1999 is when it went on your bill for the first time. We also know from 1999 to 2003, while they were collecting that debt retirement charge for 3 or 4 years, the total debt went up by about $1 billion. Now, I don't know how much they collected in those 3 or 4 years. I'm going to guess on the Conservative side, $1 to $2 billion. On the high side, 3 to 4. I don't know what the number is. I acknowledge that. But let's round it off and say it's 2 to 3 billion. So while they collected for the first time the debt retirement charge that's on everybody's hydro bill still today, created by the Conservatives, the debt went up by $1 billion while they collected it. They got $2 billion, $3 billion they brought in. Where'd that money go? Where did it go? The money, the debt went up. We don't know where it went. By $1 billion it went up while they collected 1, 2, 3, or 4 billion. I don't know how much. Diesel generators down. The privatization, the member from Timmins, James Bay, talked about that one. I remember it very well. And I remember specifically the part related to Hydro One. As a Northern member, scared the death out of me, I don't mind telling you that the Conservatives were willing to go forward and privatize Hydro One. Take a ride on the highways in Northern Ontario and you'll understand why. When you see those transmission wires and that infrastructure stretching for miles with nothing in between, and you can just imagine somebody privately owning that infrastructure, and we're going to try and get them to invest and maintain that when there's no return on that investment up there, that would have been an absolute disaster for Northern Ontario, but the Conservatives wanted to do that. Everybody's got a record on energy. Everybody's got it. The NDP, they cancelled Conowapa. Boy, would that have been a boon for Northwestern Ontario. That transmission line from Manitoba would have came right through Northwestern Ontario. It would have created construction jobs. It would have been one of the biggest construction booms that we had seen in our history. They came to government in 1990 and they decided to cancel it. The deal was signed. The deal was already signed. It would have brought in clean, renewable hydraulic power at about 4 cents a click for 20 years. They cancelled it. I'm not sure why. They'll speak to it perhaps. And they paid the government of Manitoba $150 million to get out of the contract. I'm sure there's a reason. The member from Timmins Bay, James Bay, talked about conservation. That's what he would do. They cancelled all the conservation programs when they came to power, and they didn't replace them with any. Hydro went up by 40% in 5 years under the NDP government. They don't like nuclear. I don't know how they're going to support the demands of business if you don't like nuclear. You're going to have to explain it. Again, it's about a long-term plan. You're going to have to tell people at some point how you're going to do it. I got 2 examples I'll mention to you. In my riding, 5 coal plants in the province, 2 of them in my riding. Our government is committed to refurbishing both of those, converting. The one in Atikokan is being converted to biomass. The one in Thunder Bay is being converted to natural gas. I consider those to be green energy projects. Well, if you think we're paying too much for green energy, and I heard the member from Timmins, James Bay, say we are, and he's not alone, others are saying the same thing, I'm interested to know if you're going to support those conversions. Those 2 conversions are going to cost money, and they're going to be about a $300 to $400 million worth of construction for the building trade unions in my riding of Thunder Bay, Atikokan, and all the men and women from the surrounding jurisdiction are going to get work there. $300 to $400 million worth of construction value. And of course the price point's going to go up when we produce energy with biomass and with natural gas. But do you support it? I do. I support it. Hopefully at some point we're going to find out if you do as well. Again, you got to pick and choose. If you say you don't like coal and you want to go off coal, let me know what you're going to do if you support those, because I know in my riding, people in Thunder Bay, Atikokan are very excited about those 2 announcements. Speaker, on a general basis, I have to tell you, in Thunder Bay, the economy, relatively speaking, is doing quite well. Our unemployment rate in Thunder Bay for the last year or 2 has been one of the lowest rates in the province of Ontario. And before somebody stands up and says, yeah, well, that's because all the guys are out west working. Well, you know what? All the guys are out west working in Chatham or in Sarnia or in Toronto or Windsor, wherever you want. The numbers are relative, and they're relevant. They make sense. We're doing very well. I could speak for a long time about what's going on at Bombardier. I could speak for a long time about what's going on at Thunder Bay Regional Research Institute, and I just mentioned the last great announcement that we had there that occurred at Sunnybrook, linked back to Thunder Bay Regional. What an incredible piece of good news Thunder Bay Regional Research Institute is. $15 million from our government helped to seed the beginning of that institute in Thunder Bay some 4 or 5 years ago. 100 incredible jobs there now, with another 100 soon to come. Knowledge-based economy, diversifying the economy of Thunder Bay and northwestern Ontario. Northern Highway money never been higher. $750 million bucks. Infrastructure dollars like crazy for the small municipalities. A brand new courthouse coming, a brand new long-term care humming, the Abbey Bow cogen that I talked about, the coal plants going on and on. The construction trade sector is going to be busy for years to come, primarily as a result of investments that we've made in our riding. I'm very proud of it, Speaker, and I'm happy I've had an opportunity this afternoon to speak. Thank you.